Welcome to Merschman Seeds Cup of Joe. On this episode, you'll hear a deeper dive into some of our new 25 series products, Monroe 2537E soybean and our 2512C-30 corn. We show some pictures of what we're seeing out in the field. Hear about how we classify wheat in the different packages we offer. And this is Turk's last episode with us. We thank him for helping bring the latest agricultural news for the past 6 years.
Hi, this is Joe Merschman. Welcome to Merschman Seeds Cup of Joe. Today we have Ben, Lynn, and Turk. Ben's going to lead the discussion again today.
Yeah, so we're going to do a little bit of a deeper dive into a couple of the newer products that we have into our lineup, then kind of show some pictures of what we're seeing out in the field, and then maybe give a little bit of an agronomic update from what we've been seeing walking through some cornfields this week. So Lynn had the first one picked out of our new lineup on the soybean side. Is our new Monroe 25 series. So it's a 2537E. It's an enlist bean, obviously. And the data for this one, and I had a lot of pushback with sales managers and stuff because we were
general sales manager as well.
General sales manager included.
Right here.
Because our old Monroe was such a staple, and a lot of people built their package around that 23 series Monroe. But when you look at the data and you look at the new plant type, I don't know. I think we're getting guys a little bit more comfortable with the fact that the old 23 series had her last year, and this 25 series looks pretty impressive. So
you know what they say, Ben? Old race cars don't run slower. The new race cars run faster, right?
That's exactly correct. So when you were out and looking at the Monroe and the plot, what did you see? What did you like? What were you looking at?
So when you're looking at these beans and finding the hole, I think the part that's interesting with this Monroe is it's following into that historical characteristics of Monroe. It's got a very good color to it. It's staying in line with that the old Monroes, the 20 series, the 23 series. We always called it the landlord bean, just a very eye appealing bean. Nice dark color, especially when you pair it with the Kennedy right beside it. It just looks far more appealing with the eye than the Kennedy. But this one, I would say that actually did shock me a little bit. Is that the 23 series Monroe had that really long petiole on it, and I was curious if this one would fall into that same boat. And I would say, by and large, we're falling into that same sphere of thinking as far as plant architecture goes with this one. It is a thin line bean. It's going to fall into that same regard, but we're seeing great closure on 30-inch rows just because that petiole is definitely getting some length to it and closing the row. A nice sized leaf that comes with that as well. So that solar factory, that farm we got going on a node by node basis is those trifoliates just look phenomenal. So from a ease of mind standpoint, from a connoisseur of the old Monroe, I'm in. Ben convinced me. I will never doubt you ever again. It's on record. Everyone knows. But
right.
When you're looking at that 5.3 bushel advantage over the old Monroe, that almost seems too good to be true. But from what we're looking at, a little bit later planting conditions on the two plots that I got to see this, touch it, feel it. But the plant is just compensating extremely well for that little bit of delayed. We're getting a nice plant height. The nodes aren't getting super stretched out. We're seeing multiple nodes having 4 to 5 flowers on them as well. And it looks like as of right now, we're going to keep those flowers, and they're turning into pods. So I don't see anything out there from an agronomic standpoint that's going to be too big of a holdup. Maybe just a little bit of septoria, but that is something here locally we always fight it. We've had a lot of rain, so we're getting that inoculum bouncing up on those lower leaves. But from I would say all the new varieties too, that aspect, that septoria is definitely, we're not seeing that set in quite as early as some of the older varieties, and we're not seeing it make its way up that plant, which is helping to enhance that yield aspect because we're keeping those those bottom nodes intact.
Yeah, and from a data standpoint, in 2022, it was the number one performer across all environments, 108% in high-yielding environments, 109% to the west, 106% in central, and the eastern breakout is 111%. So that's the 22 performance, 23 to Joe's point, where old race cars don't go slower, new race cars go faster. And this year's data is the number 2 line in Iowa, Illinois, Missouri. And it's a pretty big market share for where we cover. And it was the number 3 overall line when you're looking in the 3 to that probably a 3.5 to a 3.8 general maturity breakout. So very, very strong. I'm excited for this one. So the 2-year data looks absolutely phenomenal on it, even when you're comparing it to products that are a generation or two, even newer yet. So
widely adapted and rock solid for yield.
Yes, I'm very, very excited about this one. So
I know we put a lot of chips on it and put a lot of production out too, so it's not
that's exactly correct. And production was limited on this one because of some of the issues that they had in South America last year. So we went out and this one was planted on 90% of the acres that we had it. It was planted at 80,000. We know that we can get similar to top end yield potential at 80,000. So we're gonna have a lot of production of this one. This one's not gonna be one that's gonna get allocated out. And in a few plots that we had it in last year, it was always right at the top. So,
and those 80,000 plant stands that we have out there, I mean, most of it were at probably 75, 76,000 final stand. And then, when we think that thing would really branch out, bush out, but I feel like it's holding true to what it's still in that same main line, just that those petioles are making up for it. And then, like I said, the spacing in between really isn't all that heinous when it comes to, when we think about half the population, we basically just took out every other plant. So our spacing is now more in that 4-inch to 4.5 probably from the stuff that I looked at. So covering that row, bean to bean isn't that bad. We're getting it taken care of. So we don't recommend everyone plant at that. Obviously that was something that we just had to do with seed production, but it's definitely eye-opening, and we'll be really curious on how this yield comes out from a seed production standpoint. I think these guys should be set up to be above trend line, to be honest.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And it's one of our strategies too, is when we launch a new bean, we don't want to bring a thimble full out. We want to bring a semi-load out. In other words, we want to have a lot of production, because there's nothing worse than having a company advertise a great product, but you can't get it. And it's kind of like the hot dog hand out in front of the dog pulling the cart, So that's one of the things we try to do is if we launch a product, we have adequate supply, no allocations.
Yep. So that's from the bean side. From the corn side, I think our customers are going to hear a lot about our 2512 C-30 this past year. That we had a few acres of it this past year in spec production that we got to get scattered out. Spent quite a bit of time in plots here this past week and actually out in some grower fields. And I have a picture to throw up that has 5 plants in a row, and all 5 plants have very, very similar ear characteristics, ear size, very, very uniform. 18 around by probably 40 long, 33,000 plants out there, and I just think it's going to be an unbelievably high yielder. This product is a little bit more racy, so we have a tendency to lose a little bit of the agronomic defense packages that come with it. So it's going to be a product that you're going to want to take care of from a fungicide standpoint. You're going to want to take care of it from fertility standpoint. Exactly, yeah. Making sure it's got enough nitrogen to get it through, because it looks awfully good everywhere that we've had it. It's got a big wide leaf on it that, like what you were talking about with the Monroes, it's going to attract. It's a huge solar plant for creating sugars for the ear, and I'm really excited. It's more of a rectangular styled ear too. What I mean by that is sometimes you get like on our 108 day, you have a huge base of that plant and it cones it down at the top, but this ear is more, and we're right past blister, but not to milk yet, so we're still at that R2 stage, but in the pictures that I'm showing, but it has this rectangle look to it, so you're going to get as much goodie out of the top of the ear as you are in the bottom of the ear, and I think that's where a lot of the yield's going to come from. It's going to have good kernel depth, it's going to have good ear or kernel count as well as kernel depth, so I'm just really excited to get to harvest on that one to share with the world how strong that product's going to be in our lineup.
Yeah, and you have it available as power core and conventional, correct?
That is correct. So that's going to be a change also, that we're going to be offering conventional style products. So very, very exciting about that one. And then which wheat product did you want to talk about?
Well, I think first let's kind of go back and maybe give the viewers a little bit of a rundown of our wheat and how we classify wheat. when we're talking about the different options or different packages that we offer for our growers. So when you hear us talk on Cup of Joe, or you hear us in the countryside, our sales reps are beating down the door right now to get the conversations on wheat going. You'll hear a few different terms getting thrown around. So we have the hyper early, we have our ultra early, and then we have our medium early, and then we have our medium. So for those that I guess aren't familiar with our terminology, do you want to give us just a quick rundown on how you classify that and what kind of characteristics those different buckets of wheat bring to the grower?
Yeah, so if you'd start at the fullest season, the majority of the products that are on the lineup that are out in the industry right now fall between a medium early and a medium. And in those instances, they are really built for certain East Coast geographies. They're very, very powerful for the Mid-South and Southern Midwest, and then they're very, very strong for the Wisconsin, sometimes Minnesota market, Michigan as well. So that those products are really good, but from a maturity standpoint, those products are going to come off in our general latitude. They're going to come off 4th of July to like the 10th of July. So it's been a focus for us, and it's always been a focus to have these ultra earlies to try to get these products off a little bit earlier so that we can enhance double crop acres. So when we go from the medium early and the mediums that are very, very strong from a yield perspective, but they're not quite as advantageous for the double crop acre.
Particularly to the north,
Particularly to the north.
The south they work.
Correct. If we get this wheat off early with our ultra earlies and now hyper earlies, we can almost get 2 weeks in advance of what you're looking at. So when we look at the data, we actually just sat down and had a genetic advisor meeting yesterday, and the checkers that they use, which are very, very common in the marketplace, that would be very similar to our Maddie product, our Maddie 3. Would classify as like 126 or 27 day product. So it takes 126 days for that product to reach maturity so that you can harvest it.
It's actually from January 1st. They call it Julian days, right?
Yes. So when we back up and look at some of our ultra and hyper earlies, some of that data comes back as, like 115, 114, 113, depending on the different climates. So we can get a full 10 days, maybe a smidge earlier than that, to get these products off, and that pulls us back to the later half of June. And if you have a bin or a drying facility, you can even take another 5 or 6 days, taking that product at 18 to 22%, whether that be a drying bin or a drying facility. So we're really, really focused on helping our customers get their double crop beans planted earlier, and then still maintaining very high yielding wheat as well. So
Ben, what was the earliest that you know of any of our customers that took wheat off? What was the date this year?
The one that I'm the most familiar with would have been Sparta, Illinois, May 28th, May 27th.
Just outside of St. Louis, right?
I believe so.
At 14%.
At reasonable moisture.
And that's unheard of.
Yes. And Mother Nature did a lot of that this year.
We had a mild winter and things were accelerated. But that tells you early, that's early when you get, it's not even June 1st.
And what did that yield been?
I think those were in the mid 70s to mid 80s. Mm-hmm. The wheat was a little bit off, a little bit too much moisture this year in that realm. But look at a June 1st planting date for double crop. That's unbelievable potential in that geography.
And that's not going to be the norm, but it for this year it was. It was the earliest we've ever seen, and normally what you just described is what we can expect.
Right.
So those beans got planted almost as early as a lot of people's first crop.
Right, and I'm not sure if he was able to get in that time frame because there's a lot of rain during that time frame as well, and test weights got lighter because the wheat was rained on a couple times once it hit maturity, but the opportunity to get the wheat planted by June 1st was definitely there. Mm-hmm. If Mother Nature would have cooperated.
As a general rule, we're hoping, around the 15th to the 20th to get the wheat off and get your double crop in.
Yes. And we always catch rains the last week of June, the first 4th of July weekend. There's always a rain spill in there somewhere. So.
Yeah, and it's back to the longest day of the year, and once that starts flipping to shorter days, we typically get drier days. So, in the calendar, that's why July is always dry, August dry. So, earlier you can get it in, you catch a little bit more of that moisture that's in the soil, get your beans up, and you can get going.
Right. And from an agronomic update, just a little bit, the southern rust is, I can confirm it, we have southern rust, and some of the stuff that I've been walking, nothing's extremely detrimental at this point. We have common rust. The tar spot is seeming to get just a pinch worse. It's not exploding like I would have expected it to, but I think there's a lot of fungicide that's been applied. So we're probably within 7 to 10 day window of getting back out there and paying really close attention to seeing if a second fungicide application is going to be warranted once that disease starts to pick up and progress again. Now, you got to go back out and you got to look and you got to understand what the environment is doing, because if the researchers at the university are accurate in what they're saying, temperatures and the dry weather in the next 7 to 10 day time frame that they're predicting are going to be hotter and drier. That's not as conducive for the tar spot, but we'll wait and see. I haven't had a morning without dew, and
Correct.
I need to go back and look at the calendar. I can't even tell you how long. So I don't know if this heat that we're supposed to be getting is going to allow for dry mornings or not. It kind of depends on dew point and the stretch and temperature that we're getting for the crop.
I think too, to that point, if you haven't done so already and you had a fungicide application done, get out there and do inventory of what your crop looks like, because if you don't and then go back out and basically if you preserved where you were at going into that fungicide application and then you're not seeing any progress, you might unnecessarily spray a second time if you're not keeping an eye on where you are in development. So
correct. Yep. And if you squint real hard, some of the earliest planting stuff that we were scouting yesterday was just through dough stage, and we were starting to see just a little bit of, not dent, but if you squinted you might have been able to see some dent. So stuff's progressing really, really quickly.
Yeah, the heat's going to speed it up then.
Yep. Not necessarily what we want in that stage, but that's just going to be reality. So
I think dew points are supposed to be high. Well, it depends on where you're at. If you're in Western, it isn't going to be as high as it is here. But around here locally, I think we're supposed to have high dew points, and that'll help.
Right. Cooler temperatures at night so that corn plant can take a break. But from what we've been scouting in the bean side, the disease is very, very minimal, except from the Septoria brown spot, and we see that every year in almost every field to some degree or other. Some years it's worse than others depending on the amount of rainfall that you've had. There's no we haven't seen really any sudden deaths show up yet, but keep an eye out for it, because I've heard some confirmations in central Illinois for sudden death, so I've been keeping my eye out on that. No frog eye has really shown its ugly head, but that's kind of a middle August, end of August disease, so that one's going to be one that we're going to be keeping an eye out for going forward here. Things look pretty clean, things look pretty good. I'm pretty excited.
those low-lying areas, I think we are finally, I guess locally, we're starting to see a little bit of nodulation show up on the low-lying areas and getting a little bit of nitrogen production. So look for them to start to kind of maybe kick out of this as we end a little bit of a wet spell and go into something a little bit more dry. It's not necessarily something that we're excited to see, but it's just the product of the year. And last year we had a few acres that were in that boat as well, and those tend to be a little bit laggard when it comes to maturity as well. So if we catch a little bit later rains, those things are still green. It could be not enjoyable to look at on the front end, but it could be able to make up a little bit of that yield difference on the back end. So just something that I've had discussions with guys is that we might want to be cognizant that there might be a little bit of maturity differences going on in bean fields, and as you're going across the field, there might be some moisture differences as well. But beans being hydroscopic, I think for the most part we should be able to manage that pretty well without too big an issue.
Yeah. And one of the things that I did at the very beginning of the week is I made a trip up to northern Illinois, southern Wisconsin, and the smartest growers that are out there right now are the growers that have drones up in the air and know what the crop looks like, what to expect, and how much more money to spend on the crop. Because there's definitely holes out there, and the good fields are more of the anomaly than the bad ones. So being up in the air and knowing what your crop looks like is very, very important this time of year.
Okay, well, today this episode marks another unique situation. Turk's this is his last episode. He's going to retire on July 31st. So Turk, it's been a pleasure to have you as our go-to guy when it comes to basically everything. everything from life lessons to agronomy to seed and everything else. You've been a real asset to our company, and we're going to definitely miss you. But I'm working to try to get him as a consultant. So when we get our backs against the wall, we can still call Turk. So anything.
We'll see you on Monday.
Well, it's been fun to see the progress of this show moving along, and
From sitting on bar stools to
if you want to see something funny, go back and look at our first episodes. And so, but it has come a long way, and I really appreciate the opportunity to work with this group of people, and look forward to seeing these shows in the future.
Well, so Dylan will probably be taking your place, and it's going to go from one extreme to the other. Dylan's still learning, and Turk was still learning too, but retained a lot of knowledge in between.
Yep.
So thank you, Turk. Appreciate it.
So, do you have a good joke this week then?
Well, I didn't do any retirement jokes because I didn't think that was appropriate, but I did come up with a couple. Actually, I got three that I think we'll see if you agree or not. Okay. Did you know that there is no official training for garbage collectors? Did you know that? There's no official training for garbage collectors. They just pick it up as they go. Okay? Mm-hmm. All right, well, I've tried. Okay. Now, here's one. I know, Lynn, you've been working on fitness and things like that, and I don't think you're doing it the way this lady did it, okay?
Uh-oh.
Okay. Why did the woman name her dog 10 miles? Why did the woman name her dog 10 miles? So she could tell her doctor she walked 10 miles every morning. Okay, there you go. Now this one here is everybody's talking about these electric cars and whatnot, okay? Did you know that Honda is coming out with the first electric vehicle that has wireless charging? They're calling it a Honda Accordless. Honda Accordless.
Yep.
I did my best, so I'm sorry. Anyhow, folks out there, we sincerely appreciate your business. If you're in the area on Wednesday, we're having an open house from 10 to 2. You're welcome to stop by. Good opportunity to see the whole Merschman gang and see what we're doing behind the curtain a little bit. So we look forward to seeing you, and if you can make it this Wednesday, 10 to 2. And we sincerely appreciate your business, and we hope that your family is safe and you're healthy. Take care.